Why does your salary, even if it's a really good one, still feel like a trap? Look, let's just be honest for a second. There is this deep emotional exhaustion that comes with the endless 9 to 5 grind. I mean, we see high-earning professionals pulling in thousands of dollars every single month, and yet they're basically living paycheck to paycheck. They're completely stressed out. You know the drill. You work incredibly hard, you finally get that promotion, you earn a little more money, and yet you still feel completely stuck on the treadmill. Why is that?
Well, welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly excited to dive into this material with you today because we're going to take all that financial anxiety and replace it with pure, actionable clarity. Today, we're turning that vague, sometimes frustrating dream of getting wealthy into a concrete, solvable math equation. We are choosing math over myth.
Now, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by your finances, just take a breath. We've got a really clear 5-step roadmap to get you out of that salary trap today. 1. The endless salary trap. 2. Freedom is a math problem. 3. Calculate your exit number. 4. Assets over active income. And finally, 5. Work becomes a choice. Let's just jump right in.
Starting off with Section 1, the endless salary trap.
First things first, we absolutely need to bust this myth that a higher active income creates wealth all by itself. Look, earning more money through a salary, it might make you comfortable, sure, but it absolutely will not make you wealthy. There is a massive difference between the average earner and the wealthy owner. The average earner is basically stuck in a loop, right? They trade their time for money, and then they immediately go out and buy liabilities, things that constantly lose value. But the wealthy, they play a totally different game. They never just trade time for money. Instead, they buy assets that work even when they aren't in the room, which leverages their time. If you rely purely on raw effort and motivation, you're going to stay stuck in that earner column. And keeping you stuck are these 3 very subtle psychological traps that are quietly draining your potential wealth. First up is lifestyle inflation. You know how this goes. The second you earn a little more, you spend a little more. You upgrade your car, your apartment, your dinners out, so you never actually get ahead. Second is social comparison. This is basically buying status just to impress others. You're literally spending money you don't have to impress people you probably don't even like. And third, instant gratification, choosing temporary comfort today over massive financial growth tomorrow. These little traps, they just trick people into endlessly upgrading their lifestyles instead of their net worth. So it all boils down to this really stark reality. Time is limited. You only have 24 hours in a day. It literally does not matter how hard you hustle, you cannot scale physical time. Active income always has a hidden restrictive ceiling, simply because human time is finite. The wealthy understand this deep down, which is exactly why they focus on ownership, not just active effort.
Which brings us to Section 2. Freedom is a math problem.
This is where we need a massive mindset shift. We have to completely stop chasing this vague idea of more money. Because, and this is crucial, financial freedom isn't a dream, it's a math problem. You don't need more money, you need a specific number. When you leave your financial future up to this fuzzy, vague dream of just being rich someday, you are practically inviting stress into your life. But absolute clarity completely kills the anxiety of the endless grind. When you stop guessing, you can finally start building toward a concrete target. And we call this target the exit number. What is it? It's the specific mathematical target of invested assets required to live off financial growth forever. This isn't just a random guess you pull out of thin air. It is the exact threshold where your automated cash streams can pay for your entire life without you having to trade your finite time ever again.
Okay, Section 3, calculate your exit number.
Let's actually calculate your exact exit number right now. Seriously, if you're listening to this, pause for a second, pull out a calculator, or just open the app on your phone. Let's do the math together. Step 1, figure out your baseline monthly living expenses, what it costs to just live your life, and multiply that by 12. That gives you your annual living cost. Got it? Okay, step 2, take that annual number and multiply it by 25. That final number on your screen, that is your exit number. That is the exact mathematical target you're aiming for. I really want to burn this multiplier into your memory. 25. By multiplying your annual expenses by 25, you are calculating the exact target capital needed to sustain you forever. Once your invested assets reach that total, you can live off the growth indefinitely without ever depleting the principal amount. It is basically magic, but it's just math. Just think about the emotional relief of that for a second. Once you hit this number, work becomes a choice. It is no longer a survival requirement. That heavy, endless anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck, it just vanishes. Because you are no longer relying on a boss or a biweekly salary for your survival.
You've built a machine that supports you. You solved the math problem.
Let's move into section 4, assets over active income. Now that the math is solved and we know exactly what our destination is, how do we actually get there? Well, the wealthy don't chase cash. They acquire automated cash streams. There are basically 5 specific wealth-building assets that make this happen. Number 1, stock market equity. Think simple index funds where you own tiny slices of growing businesses. 2, rental real estate, which spits out monthly cash flow. 3, a scalable business, one that runs without your daily labor. 4, intellectual property. These are like digital assets, a book or software that sells over and over again. And 5, paper assets that yield cash flow. Now, don't panic. You do not need all of these to start. You just need to start acquiring one of these assets that works for you while you're fast asleep. And the absolute cheat code behind those assets? Compound interest. Uninterrupted time is what builds wealth fastest. If you look at how compound interest works, the growth starts deceptively slow. It feels like absolutely nothing is happening for a long time. But then, as your returns start earning their own returns, the growth explodes vertically. It's like a hockey stick. That upward curve is what does the heavy lifting to get you to your exit number. So the key here is leveraging what the source material calls the decade trick. Look, people who try to get rich fast, they almost always fail. Real wealth is built over decades. On day 1, you start small. Maybe you just plug a few hidden leaks in your budget. By year 1, you've set up consistent automation. Money goes straight into your investments before you even have a chance to look at it. And by decade 1, you hit that vertical explosion. Boring, long-term consistency always outperforms get-rich-quick intensity. Because, let's face it, get-rich-quick usually just ends in go broke fast.
Which brings us to our final part, section 5, work becomes a choice.
Hitting your exit number requires a pretty profound shift in who you actually are. You have to close the identity gap. Look at the consumer mindset versus the owner mindset. Consumers are always asking, what can I spend? They trade their hard-earned cash for depreciating status symbols, luxury cars, flashy clothes, just to look successful. But owners ask, what can I build? They trade their cash for real assets. You have to stop trying to look rich with things that lose value and focus entirely on buying real ownership.
I really want to leave you with this incredible insight from the source material. The truly wealthy hide wealth. Real wealth is unspent cash. It's so true. There is this whole secret lifestyle of the invisible rich. They drive simple cars, they live in totally average homes, and they completely ignore all the social media noise. Their wealth isn't on display for the world to see. It is silently compounding in productive assets. They chose actual freedom over appearances. They executed their plan quietly in the background.
So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Freedom is not an impossible dream. It is simply a number, and you now have the exact equation to calculate it. Stop guessing. Stop letting financial anxiety rule your life. Start building toward your concrete target today. Freedom is a number. Go find yours. What is your exit number?